Good morning, everybody. I'm Larry Weissoon. If you enjoy real-world hunting and fishing talk, you're really going to enjoy listening to my good friend, Luke Clayton, and his guest for the next hour.
This is David Fox, and welcome to Outdoors with Luke Clayton and Friends. Luke has been a recognized outdoors writer for the past 3 decades and writes for a host of outdoor publications. Luke pens a weekly newspaper outdoors column that appears in over 40 Texas newspapers. Luke is on the pro staff of Pyramyd Air, your one-stop shop for everything air gun related, Smokin Tex electric smokers, and AGM Global Vision, maker of an awesome line of thermal hunting scopes and spotters. Feel free to contact Luke through his website, catfishradio.org. Now let's join Luke and his guests for this week's show.
Well, thank you, guys and folks. It is time to visit with Mr. Larry Weissoon, Mr. Whitetail, my buddy, who's standing by. I think I hear him in the background. Larry, good.
Hear me giggling back here because I'll tell you what, Luke, we're getting close to going on a deer hunt. I love it.
I'm fired up, and you are too, yes. So thanks for being with me for 17.75 years every Saturday, Larry.
Oh, my gosh, that has been so much fun, and we've been so fortunate over the years. Again, we've got great sponsors in DSC, Conservation Education, Hunter Advocacy, Hornady, Accurate, Diddley, Dependable, Mossberg, that makes fantastic shotguns and rifles right here in Texas, Stealth Vision, which is an unbelievable scope company that you and I both use, and now they have the rangefinder binoculars as well too. And my gosh, VINEYARDMAX, and I want to come back to that a little bit. Also, Taurus, that makes some great handguns that I hunt with a whole lot, and you have in the past too with the Raging Hunter. But I want to come back to Stealth Vision, of course, but also to VINEYARDMAX. Now, what a fabulous attractant. You and I are getting ready to go on a hunt, which will be coming up kind of the middle part of this coming week. Luke, one of the things I've had Mr. Cotton do, Mr. David and Edgar Cotton, I've had them putting out VINEYARDMAX in a bunch of different places. But I've also had them putting out some of that kind of out in the middle of nowhere. You know, they've got some property there where there are not any stands around. And the intent is I wanted them to put some VINEYARDMAX to hold some of those deer and maybe attract them to a little bit of a tighter spot, because that rut is about to start kicking off in that part of your part of the world up there. And that being the case, those bucks should be coming at rattling horns pretty good. And what I'm hoping to do is to walk into those areas, you and Edgar and David and I, and try to see if we can't rattle up some bucks that are hanging around, because I know there are going to be those attracted to that VINEYARDMAX. And I don't think they may be going to some of the fields and some of the other things around that area. So hopefully we'll pull some old bucks in that area as well too that don't get seen very often. But we're going to be doing a bunch of rattling during the time frame we're there, particularly during the middle part of the day.
Larry, I always look forward to getting with our friends David and Edgar Cotton down there. I live in the western part of Kaufman County, and of course they're kind of central Kaufman County. But there are it's on some places where bigger tracts of land. Kaufman County, yes, it's not far from Dallas, but there are some fine deer, some great deer hunting out here. You'll have to agree. You've hunted it. The last few years, you know, we've hunted up there.
Right. And, yeah. Thanks to you getting it all set up and introducing us. They've gotten to be just absolutely fabulous friends.
I know it.
Every opportunity I have to come to their property, I do, whether we're hunting, whether we're just sitting there talking around a campfire.
I've had so much fun. I look forward to that. It's about, close to 30 miles from where I live, just a short drive, and close to where I live. We've already noticed, Larry, some the bucks have long been separated from their bachelor groups, but
right.
Already put the eyeball on a couple of bucks right here by the house that looking they're definitely older deer, definitely shooters, but yeah, within the next 2 weeks here in Kaufman County and across actually much of East Texas, that last week in October, the first week, 10 days of November, it's on. So I expect we'll see some good deer and maybe get one of them old big mossy horns out of the brush,
I got a feeling this year we will. And to me, actually, I like rattling before that rut really gets kicked off that last week or so, because those bucks at that point, they're out, they're looking, they're seriously looking for does. The does really hadn't started coming in yet, and so those bucks have got a level of testosterone that is making them roam around, and they're anxious to fight. If you can sound like something fighting, they're going to come look to see what's in that area with them, kind of thing. So to me, the best time to rattle is that week or two, really before that rut gets seriously started. I'll rattle during the rut, but and then after the rut as well too. But I really like that last little bit of the pre-rut, and we should hit that thing just about right. Hopefully the weather guessers are right about maybe sending a little cool front down our way and all that kind of good stuff. So it ought to be really, really good. And then what we'll probably do is probably hunt the fields or hunt over VINEYARDMAX, first thing in the morning at first light, and then maybe gather up and try to really spend more time during the middle part of the day rattling. I've had probably as better success when I think about it, particularly on bigger bucks anyway, during the midday than from about 10 to about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And hopefully that's going to be the case when we get down there with David and Mr. Edgar.
Well, Larry, I don't think we could have picked a better date to go, just before the late October, just before the chasing usually really gets heavy. We should be prime time. I think I want to get to have of course we'll have our video cameras rolling and hopefully we can get some good footage of that. And there are some fine deer over in that country, some big old bucks and lots of game. I'm looking forward to it. Also looking forward to some camp meals in the evening. We're gonna
I've got a feeling there's going to be some really good stories told around that campfire, and unfortunately, David and Mr. Edgar didn't get to go to Colorado this year, and for several different reasons, and they've been going for years and years and years. So we're going to try to make this a pretty special event for both of them, as far as you and I are concerned with those guys.
Let's get down there and make up. Let's get down there and. Well, elk in Colorado or whitetail here close to home, it really doesn't matter to me. As long as we're out there with good friends, and that's what it's all about. It's not about hanging, with me, it's not about hanging another rack on the wall. I've killed some good deer, and God knows you have. But, that's not what deer hunting has become for me. It's I want to kill a deer. I do. I want some meat in the freezer, and that desire has not diminished since I was 16 years old, honestly. I still get all fired up, that. But it's the enjoyment that I have nowadays, a lot of it with friends and just being around the camp, sitting around the campfire, talking about the times, distant times in the far past, and then what might be coming up the next morning hunt,
Oh man, I tell you what, I can't wait. And I know the food's going to be good. I know you're going to be doing some cooking, and we'll they're set up just right because they got all kinds of things there that we can cook on, and I know that you probably, if you don't, I got a feeling you probably still got some of that blue catfish, that blue cat available too. We might just do a little bit of a fish fry. If you don't, I've got one or two, I think, bags left that I can bring as well too.
Got it. It's just ready to go. You bet we can do that. And something funny when I first get to know Edgar and David probably 3 years ago, I wanted to bring that big old cast iron skillet full of supper for us ready. I didn't want it because I knew we wouldn't have a lot of time to be cooking and all that. So I remember asking them, I said, David, do you guys like smothered steak with rice and gravy? He looked at me, yeah. Yeah, I said, okay, well, we're going to have some venison, some smothered venison with onions and rice and gravy and mushrooms. And you were there, you remember?
Oh yeah,
I brought that pot
well.
down, and it was it's a big old 14-inch skillet. You know, it hold a lot of stuff. It was about 3/4 full. And when we left, there was a little oil left in the bottom of that skillet. You know?
Yeah, that was all that was left. By golly, I think everybody had a little piece of bread or so. They were trying to sop up
working on the
gravy.
The gravy. That's right. But that's a lot of what deer camp's all about. You know, we both spent our time back in the day at deer camps where nobody got a deer. You know, back when there weren't that many deer around. But I've heard you say we're living in the good old days of deer hunting right now.
Look, we really are. I can remember years ago where if you saw a track, you were excited. And if somebody saw a deer, you know, even more excited. And then, oh my gosh, if somebody shot a deer in that community, such as where I grew up, you were a hero for that entire year until the next hunting season came around at least. And sometimes beyond that as well, too.
Subject to have your picture in the paper with a.
Oh yes, sir.
You remember, Larry, back in? I'm getting us a little off. If we have a topic, I guess, getting us a little off topic. But you remember back in the day, in the '60s and late '60s and early '70s, you know, or late '50s. Say 1960. I was 10 years old, and it's all about points. It didn't matter what kind of mass or nobody worried about inches. It was points. No. I got a 8-point. Your old Joe Brown down at Manchester community, he shot a 10-point. Now it might be a 10-point the size of your fingers and your hands that you're holding up, little bitty, spindly 10, but it was a 10-point, right? That was a big deal.
It really was, and back then that point didn't have to be an inch long.
No.
It was if you could hang a ring on it.
That was the rule.
Nobody ever described what the size of that ring, what the width of that ring was. But if you could hang a ring on it, my gosh, that was considered a point, and the more points, of course, the better.
The bigger
you're
the
right.
deer.
Nobody asked about age. Nobody asked about hardly even what they weighed down here.
No.
But it was all about the number of points.
It was. Well, Larry, as always, I really, how much I appreciate you being with us. All our friends do too. I think it's time to start, thinking about what we're going to pack up for this next hunt. Getting the old pickup and get it. I like to load up a day or two before so I don't forget anything.
I think my little old Jeep is still pretty much loaded. I may have to replenish a few little things. I kind of live out of that Jeep starting in about, late September through the end of February when the MLD seasons are over with. So, about time to head down that way. And again, that's what I do every week until we get to January. Don't forget about the DSC convention coming up in January 9th through the 12th. At the I almost said there in Dallas, but it's in Atlanta, Georgia this year at the World Congress Center, and unfortunately they're tearing down the Kay Bailey, so we can't do it there, but we'll see everybody there, and they can learn more about going to biggame.org, and we'll see everybody back here next week, and maybe by then I'll tell you the story about all my moose hunting adventures up there.
Looking forward to it. Folks, this segment is made possible by Ultrimatic Feeders. Go online to ultrimaticfeeders.com and check out the most awesome line of game feeders in the world. I've been using these things for 15 years, and I've got one that's been in the woods about 10 or 11 years. I forget exactly how long. Check them out, ultrimaticfeeders.com. Folks, I want to tell you about an awesome destination down at Lake Tawakoni. It's Wind Point Park. If you love the outdoors, if you like camping in an area, I bet I saw 60 deer. I was in there recently touring the place, went fishing down there. It's some awesome fishing, camping, long-term RV rentals overnight. There's some beautiful cabins, some bigger cabins and littler ones right there by fishing. You can walk out the door and fish at some of those places. But the place is neat as a pin. It's been around for 10 years, Wind Point Park. If you haven't been down there in the last 10 years, it's all remodeled and just beautiful. So check it out online. I think the website is windpointparktx.com. Of course, you can just Google Wind Point Park, Tawakoni, and pull it up. But I want you to know about it. You're going to be hearing old Luke talk about the fishing down there a lot. I've already done some bank fishing there, so you can catch a lot of blues, and you can also catch a ton of channel catfish along those rocks. Another thing I want to tell you about, VINEYARDMAX. The website is vineyardmax.net. They make an awesome line of game feeders, fish feeders. They're just an awesome product, but they also have a deer attractant. That's what I really want to tell you about. It's called VINEYARDMAX. It's made from dried, hammer-milled grape hulls and wheat bran, I think it is, or, ground-up wheat, and also some corn chops. So it's got stuff in it deer-like, plus it's got that scent of grapes that we've used it. Larry and I have used it out in West Texas where a deer have never seen a grape and had them come in on it. So check that out, and the website again is vineyardmax.net. Folks, this segment is made possible by Smokin Tex electric smokers that I've been using a long, long time, CatfishPro, catfishing baits and catfish supplies, Ultrimatic Feeders, and AGM Global Vision, maker of the spotters and thermal scopes that I hunt with. Well, friends, you know that exciting feeling just before you go out on a hunting trip or a fishing trip. Well, that's what old Luke's got right now. I have Mr. Tony Pennebaker on the phone, and I'm about to jump in the old GMC and head to Tawakoni, which is about an hour east of Dallas. And Tony, I'm ready to go. You've been up since 3 o'clock or something. Got some fresh shad ready to put down for them blue catfish, right?
Yes, I do. I got plenty of shad in the live well, and we're gonna go out and go for some blue cats. Shallow water. Yes, sir, shallow water. You were out there yesterday, and I saw some pictures, some nice ones there. It's into October now, and it's the time of year when those old blues start. Well, you catch them all the time on occasion, but it's really the blue season, isn't it? When people really target, where you guys are targeting those big ones. Yeah, it just gets better from here. Mm-hmm. It's just better and better every day. But yeah, yesterday was a really good day. We caught fish up to 30 pounds. Ooh. And turned back some big ones and kept enough for 3 bags of 4 bags. So I had four bags of meat. I had 4 bags of meat. Yeah, it was a good day.
You better believe it. Well, I got a catfish fry planned here, a family blowout. So we catch any big ones, we'll cut them loose. But if we catch some of them, eater types will. I got Lake Crisco is beckoning for them.
Yeah, heck yeah. Well, we're gonna target the 2 to 15 pounders to eat, yes. And if them others get on there, well, they make good pictures.
I've said
we should catch you plenty of meat for the table.
Boy, I've said a million times, of course, for stories, the things that I do, writing articles, I've got an article planned for fur fishing game, and I want to get some good pictures for this for late winter, a magazine I've been writing for forever, fur fishing game, but. If I had, my choice, those top end, those heavy, what we call eaters, 10 pounds, 12 pounds, my gosh, it doesn't take very many of those to fill some gallon freezer bags, Tony,
Oh, you get your limit in big slots, what I call them, big slots,
Big slots.
They're not 30 inches long, but they're up there close, 27, 8 inches long.
Yes, sir.
They're always somewhat under 15 pounds,
Right.
Yeah,
right.
Those are great. You cut the red off, you got the best eating meat on the lake.
I agree. So tell me about, we're going to be fishing water fairly shallow, you think?
Yeah, and then I started in about 4.5 foot yesterday, and the first fish we caught was 28 pounds.
Ooh, I saw that picture.
And we caught several smaller fish, right there, and we kind of moved around some similar water and caught some more and some good slots, and then I moved out to about 7 or 8 feet of water. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And we caught the rest of another turn back or two, and and the rest of the big slots we had, and some more smaller fish too. You know, we wasn't just catching one size; we was catching all sizes.
Yeah, that's
good. We had 20. We kept 19 fish or 20 fish, something like that.
Which equated to all those fillets.
4 bags of meat, ready, trimmed up, ready to cook. You know,
as you say, delicious. How do you say it? Delicious Lake Tawakoni.
100% trimmed, delicious Lake Tawakoni blue cat fillets.
That's right. Folks, you've heard Tony with me lots of times in the past, and our mutual friend David Hanson. We thank the world of David. He's been guiding out there for catfish. But Tony and David work together, and you know, Tony, you guys have a good relationship. I'd like to see more guides work together. I mean, you know, it just makes sense. But old David, I was out. I fished with him about a month ago, I guess, and shallow water. The water was coming in then quite a bit, runoff, you know, and we caught some nice, plenty of good eaters. But sure, looking forward to getting out there with you, Tony. Tell us about the size hooks you're using right now for what we will be using.
I'm using 4 and 5. And I maybe have a 6-aught or 2 on there. Not big hooks, circle hooks.
Yep.
I think mostly what I got on there now is Gamakatsu octopus hooks.
Right.
You know,
right.
They're real sharp and they work good. And using smaller baits, they work great. You know.
Well, I want to mention this.
And they're strong. I mean, they're at least a 3X strong hook, so they're not going to bend on you.
No.
You know, even you get a 50 or 60 pounder on there, it'll catch him.
It will, and it'll also catch the smaller ones too, which is good. Tony, I want to mention something. Your punch bait, Tony P's punch bait, folks. Tony, he's all about catfish, catching them, channel cat and the blues. And the punch bait will catch blue catfish, no question, but it's a killer for channel cat, is it? I mean, people can order that. Just
where you fish it, you know, it'll catch the blues just as good.
Yeah.
You know, if you go to where there's a mainly channel cat, like saying over here on this end of the lake, the north end, along the river channels, there's more channel cat.
Yeah.
You know, and really, I mean, it kind of depends on how you fish, but you go on the other side in that deeper water and fish about 20 foot, 25 foot down in that 40-foot water, you catch more blues.
Yep.
And they be like the same size. It's just good eating size blue cat.
Yep. Well,
me and David went over there last year. I think it was last summer. We didn't get to do it this time, but we caught our limits in eater blues, and we had maybe a handful of channel cat in the batch. Well, you know, so it'll catch them. You just got to present it to them where they're at.
That's right. Target them. Well, do this. I'm about to jump in the truck here in just a little bit and head your way, but tell them how to locate you, and then you can order the bait, your Tony P's punch bait online too. You know,
you can always call me direct 903-474-3078.
Okay.
It's to order bait or book a fishing trip, either one.
Yep.
And my website is LakeTawakoniCatfishGuide.com. My bait site is bestcatfishbait.com.
Okay. All right.
Of course, you look me up on Facebook or anything else too, you know.
Well, Tony, I'm getting anxious, man. I got to load up. I'm getting ready. So I'll see you down there in just as soon as it takes.
See you shortly, Luke.
All right, buddy. Well, folks, I am anxious to get in the truck and head down there to meet Mr. Tony Pennebaker. I need to record a little segment, 2 segments that's coming up with another Tony Smotherman with CVA Muzzleloaders. Now, we're going to do some muzzleloader talk. You've got that coming up in the rest of our show, so I think he's beeping in right now. So let's get with Tony, talk some muzzleloaders, then I will load up and head out to beautiful Lake Tawakoni. Folks, let's talk a little outdoor cooking. Let me tell you about an electric smoker that I've been using for 15 years, I guess. Smokin Tex electric smokers. If you're tired of staying up all night keeping that wood fire burning when you're barbecuing, give Smokin Tex a try. They're made to last a lifetime. You can check them out at smokintex.com. That's SMOKINTEX.com. Well, friends, Mr. Larry Weissoon is going to tell you about the finest hunting optics that we have ever found.
Look, these are called Stealth Vision. They come from Crockett, Texas. Dr. John McCall developed them. They're 34 millimeter tubes as opposed to the narrower tubes, so more light transmission. They have a little green light that comes on. That scope is leveled because that's when you want to pull the trigger. They have an optional lighted reticle as well too, and a whole lot of other products. And folks can learn more about them by going to stealthvision.com.
And for seasonings, anything to do with outdoor cooking, all kind of jerky seasonings, sausage seasonings, Butcher Packer Supply. That's butcherpackersupply.com. I think the website is butcher-packer.com. This segment here is brought to us by the Choctaw Hunting Lodge up in southeast Oklahoma, owned by the Choctaw Nation. Pyramyd Air, your one-stop shop for everything air gun related. Well, friends, this is the time of the year that we're sighting in making sure our bows are all set up. Centerfire rifles, I shoot air guns some, but I absolutely love hunting and shooting muzzleloaders. Now, Mr. Tony Smotherman with CVA Muzzleloaders is our guest. Tony knows a whole bunch. I know a lot of the questions to ask him. I just know what my muzzleloader will do, my CVA Optima. I've used it quite a bit. Tony, thank you, buddy, for being with us.
Well, what's going on, Big Luke? How you doing?
We're good. Well, all is good down here in Texas, man. I've got some muzzleloader hunt up in Oklahoma planned with my
Oh, man.
Yes, with my...
We may cross paths up there because I'll be there as well.
I bet I could arrange a crossing of paths with the Choctaw Indians up there with you. We're gonna be up there in southeast Oklahoma, hunting with my friends, the Choctaw Nation up there, muzzleloader hunt. So that's going to be coming up, and I'm going to be using my muzzleloader. A lot of people think that it has to be a quote muzzleloader season, but but here in Texas, I mean, actually, the 28th of this month, I could be hunting with a bow. I could be using a muzzleloader here in Texas, or an air rifle, or a crossbow, or whatever, on a lot of our managed leases. Tony, that are permitted by the state. On private land, you don't use your tags on your hunting license, but you use the tags on the permits that the ranch owner has. Yeah.
And Luke, what is that called? What is that permit called?
Managed lands permit is what there's
managed land.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, many ranches are a part of that program now. And on the 28th of September this year, that's when the season opens, through February. Now, I took our CVA, my first I've killed a couple of hogs with it before, but my first real deer hunt was this year in late February, almost the 26th. Went out to Sterling County, out in way west Texas, with my buddy Larry Weissoon. We went on his lease, and I shot a couple of doe. So that's a long, long time to hunt, but I would say at least half of the big ranches are permitted by Texas Parks and Wildlife, Tony. And I have a buddy that's got 1,200 acres. That's 25 miles from me here in Kaufman County, east of Dallas. He's on the permitted thing. So the way that works, real quick, is the Parks and Wildlife says you must take X number of bucks and X number of does, and they want you to take those to be compliant with their plan. So yeah, we can hunt a long time with those, but
boy, you sure can.
So might get you involved. I'd love to get you off down here with us sometime. I know you'd have a good time, and maybe I could.
You don't have to twist my arm too hard. I can promise you that.
When you're in this neck of the woods.
I know how to drive to Texas.
Okay, well, all right. Well, we're gonna work on that, buddy. Really. But so here's what I know. The Optima, and I'm not a long range. I would be if I probably would need a little more education, but a long range muzzleloader shooter. I sight this thing in what I do, just kind of like a center fire, I shoot it in about an inch and a half high at 100, and I don't think I've ever shot an animal over maybe 150 yards with a muzzleloader. That's it. But CVA makes muzzleloaders now that are actually comparable to a center fire, shooting them out to 800 yards, right?
Well, you know that your scenario that you're talking about there, where your longest shot has been 100, 150, 200, and that's pretty typical for muzzleloader hunters and shooters across the country. But, you know, when you work your way westward, the western front, there's a lot of great muzzleloading seasons out there in those western states that we all love to dream about and talk about heading out there for elk hunting, for mule deer, for antelope. And those areas out there are going to dictate that in most cases, unless you're pretty light on your feet, you're going to have to shoot a little further than we do in whitetail country. And, modern advancements of the world we live in today, I mean, we're communicating. I'm in Iowa, you're in Texas. We're doing a radio show. We are on the internet all the time, and our phones are no longer phones, they're computers. So I say that to say that technology has touched everything in our everyday life. And that includes muzzleloaders. And, you know, everybody thinks about a muzzleloader being the Daniel Boone, Davy Crockett scenario. But, again, technology has touched those heavily with modern ingenuity in the last 2 decades. And now we're building muzzleloaders with high ballistic coefficient projectiles. And that's one thing we've never talked about before in a muzzleloader is typically bullets are just big honking chunks of lead that we sling down range at a moderate speed of 1,800 feet per second. But now we're building high ballistic coefficient projectiles, so they're super long. They cut the wind really well. And, you know, our long-range muzzleloader that we have is called a Paramount. It's a bolt-action muzzleloader. And with modern propellants, again, technology has touched propellants. Everybody used to use back in the day GoX black powder, and it has transferred to a much better powder today. It went from the GoX to the Pyramyd Air to the 777. And now everybody's running Blackhorn, the Blackhorn 209 powder. Even though it's a little bit tougher to get here lately, the last couple of years, it's not been on the shelf like what we used to see it. It's been a little hard to find. But I also think that muzzleloader hunters and shooters have recognized it being such an amazing powder, and now they are using it like crazy. And that has got us to the ability with our modern engineering behind our barrel manufacturing, the modern engineering behind projectile manufacturing, and this new powder that everybody has found out about. I mean, effectively, I could run this muzzleloader out to 800 yards, and that's shooting a 45 caliber with a 285 grain power belt ELR bullet. But, you know, for whitetail size animals, my background is back in my younger years, I was an outdoor rider, and that's kind of how I got into the hunting industry. And one thing I learned very quickly in talking about energies, because muzzleloaders have always been my thing, and I've kind of been dug into that well for 3 decades now, that, you know, the kinetic energy to harvest a whitetail is typically about 900 foot-pounds to effectively harvest a whitetail-sized animal. You get into elk, obviously it takes more kinetic energy, but these long-range muzzleloaders that we're building today, they're very effective with much more than 900 foot-pounds of kinetic energy past 600. So it's not a problem to shoot something at 600 yards. And, you know, we're able to do that with all the advancements we just talked about, but also optics also has brung into a big play. Back in the day when I started back in the 90s hunting with a muzzleloader, we had a 3x9 by 40 millimeter scope, no tactical turrets, no tactical hash marks in the reticle. It was just a crosshair. So modern advancements in optics also has allowed us to shoot these muzzleloaders a lot further than we've ever had before.
That's amazing, Tony. The long range aspect of the muzzleloaders today. I do know, I'm very familiar with the turrets. You know, stealth vision makes a series of rifle scopes that I use for center fires. That thing would perform well. That's going to give me something to play with. I put one of those on my muzzleloader is the Optima, and I find it quite accurate out to 200 yards I'm shooting 150 grains volumetric measure. That, you know, I'm not into the. I know that you were telling me earlier for this long range rifle, you know, it's measured powder, but
you know, and so doing that, you know, accuracy in the muzzleloader is repeatability, and that by what I mean with that is doing the same thing identically every time. It's just like an archer. You know, an archer has to get his form down, his knocking point down, all that kind of stuff to make him very effective, repeatable. And that's the same thing on a muzzleloader. But when you do volumetric weighing of powder, yes, it works just fine. I've been using volumetric weighing my entire life. But now we realize that if we want to take our muzzleloaders to that next level, and us be a next level muzzleloader hunter and shooter, that weighing the powder is by far the best. Obviously, that we're talking loose form, but that allows us to get our powder down to not to the, you know, in volumetric, you typically do it in 5 grain increments. You know, you're shooting 95, 100, 105. Now we can get it down to the 10th of grain. So it's identical every time we pull the trigger. And we basically adopted this process from the guys that are reloaders. Your guys that reload centerfire stuff, they weigh their powder to the finite. That way they can be repeatable. And we have adopted that process, in essence, for us guys that are really technical into the muzzleloading side of things and want these guns to shoot the best that they can. We have not per se left volumetric weighing, but we've definitely paid more attention on measurements.
Yes, sir. Well, let me ask this. As far as like accuracy, maybe comparing to centerfires, minute of angle, how far out could you expect that, Tony? You know, minute of angle. So
obviously minute of angle is at 100 is 1 inch group or better. And we can hold MOA. I have personally held MOA out to 800 with our long range muzzleloader.
And that would be what, an 8-inch group?
That's 8-inch. That's correct. That 8-inch or less 3-shot group.
Yeah, that's amazing. I've
got. It's very easy to stay in that MOA. You know, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 500. It's very easy to do that if you spend any time behind your gun and become very fluent in the way it fits and feels.
Yes,
obviously is a big thing to be a good shooter. The gun needs to fit you perfectly, and you need to spend time behind it.
Yep.
Like an archer, he shoots an arrow or 10 arrows, or I've heard guys say they shoot 50 arrows a day just to keep their repetitive nature in play. And I kind of do the same thing in muzzleloading. I shoot a bunch of muzzleloaders, and I shoot them all summer long. Well, let me back up. I shoot them all year long. And it obviously makes me very understanding of the fitment of my rifle and things like that, so that I can be repetitive in nature of long range shooting. But yes, technology has been a wonderful thing in the muzzleloading world, and that's in everything in it: the primers, the powder, the bullets, the barrel manufacturing, the optics that goes on top of it. It's been very interesting in the last decade to see the advancements finally come into the muzzleloading world to get us to be able to shoot longer ranges. And if we don't want to shoot longer ranges, just be more accurate at closer ranges.
You better believe it. Tony, we need to take a quick break, but I want you to hang with me. There's a lot more. We haven't covered everything I want to talk about. So will you hang with me a minute?
Absolutely, my man.
Folks, this is Luke. For about the past decade, I've been hunting editor for Airgun Hobbyist magazine. I think the only magazine devoted strictly to airgun shooting and hunting in the country. Well, in that length of time, I've learned quite a bit about big bore air guns and smaller calibers too. A spot to go to that if you're interested in air guns, you need to know about Pyramyd Air. The website is PYRAMYD, PyramydAir.com. They have anything and everything you need, from the guns themselves, the big bores or the smaller calibers, to the accessories. Just remember PyramydAir.com, and there's a number when you get on the website if you need to call and talk to somebody. Give them a buzz, and they can fill you in on little details that you might need to know about shooting or hunting with big bore air guns. While you're on the website there, I'd like you to check out the big bore air gun that I've done a great deal of hunting with. It's the Seneca Dragon Claw, 50 caliber, pressures up to 3,000 psi, and it looks like a conventional rifle. Wooden stock, I think you'll like the appearance, and I know you'll like the performance. It shoots not only bullets, but also air bolts as well, tipped with a broadhead. Check it out. It's the Seneca Dragon Claw.
The snowflakes fall as winter comes, and time just seems to fly.
Friends, this segment is brought to us by CVA Muzzleloaders. In my opinion, the very best muzzleloaders in the world, the ones that I shoot. You can check them out online, cva.com. AGM Global Vision, maker of the Rattler and the Adder that I use. You can check them out online too, agmglobalvision.com. Kuby's Wild Game Processing and Kuby's Restaurant in Dallas. And VINEYARDMAX, maker of some awesome deer attractant and some very fine game feeders and fish feeders located down in Nacogdoches, Texas. Check them out at vineyardmax.net. Well, folks, we are back with Mr. Tony Smotherman, CVA Muzzleloaders, and I've got a bunch more questions. Tony, thanks for sticking with us through that break, buddy.
Man, it's absolutely my pleasure.
Well, let's talk. We talked about some things that I really learned in the previous segment there, but the average guy that's probably like I was 35 years ago, maybe. You know, I had a friend that had a couple of 3 muzzleloaders. He was big into muzzleloading, and the inlines had just kind of got popular at that time. A muzzleloader for someone that wants to see if that's what they want to do. Now, CVA makes they probably maybe don't want to start with the one that's going to require the long range shooting and all that. But the Wolf, that's kind of for lack of a better term, it's the entry level, but they shoot as good as the Optima or any of them. So what would you advise?
You know, kind of like what you mentioned there, we kind of make all gamuts of expertise per se in the muzzleloading side of things. We make our entry level, our lower or least expensive version is our Wolf. Our mid-range is Optima. Our top-end break-open model, and it's a series, an Acura series. And then we go into the Paramount, which is the bolt-action side of things. But, you know, the most important thing is you need to, if you're going to go purchase a muzzleloader or kind of new to the sport, I think the most important thing is, number one, see what your budget is, and then see which gun fits you best. It's just kind of like a bow scenario. You know, if the bow don't fit you, you're not going to be accurate with that bow. And I believe that kind of falls in line also with our muzzleloader. So if you're kind of new to the sport, I would definitely go and take a look, grab, feel, make sure the fitment is good for a Wolf and or an Optima, which is both great entry-level guns. They're, you know, the least expensive that we manufacture in our lineup. But just because they're less money to purchase and take home with you doesn't mean that the quality is cut. The barrels, we're a barrel manufacturer also, so we manufacture our own barrels. And you know, the last thing that your bullet sees and goes down is the barrel. So where we're able to save money on a Wolf and an Optima is they don't have adjustable trigger assemblies, but they are amazing. They're just not adjustable. The Acura series has rubber inlay in the stock where the Optima and the Wolf do not. The Acura series has a soft touch coating on the stock that makes it pretty grippy in inclement weather. The Wolf and the Optima do not. So that's where we're able to make them less expensive. So if you see those and you think, oh, they're cheaper per se, that means they're probably less quality. That is absolutely not the case. They're going to shoot side by side with every muzzleloader that we make. We just were able to make them less expensive by taking, basically, if you think about it in an automotive way, we kind of took the power windows and power door locks off. Still get you to the store just like it, you know, a work truck gets you to the store just like a King Ranch does.
That's true.
And our Optimas and Wolves will get you to the field, get you in a blind, and put meat on the table just like our Acura series does.
Tony, something that I really like about the one that I shoot, the Optima. Now, of course, I've been hunting and shooting all my life, and I'm 74 years old. Thank God I'm still healthy and I can still do it, Now I don't climb.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I
think we all hope to be able to make it to 74 and still do what you do.
Well, thank you, sir. And I'm blessed. I am. I mean, I still do it. But I have become, I think a famous outdoor writer said, Rourke, I think, wrote, he said something like, if you get to be an old hunter, the young guys are going to think of you as an old maid. Well, I get it now because I am a safety. Safety to me is everything. I'm a very safe hunter, and I demand that out of people that I'm with. Okay, where I'm going with all this, the Optima has a breech plug that's got threads a long way. That breech plug is locked into the breech of my muzzleloader. I've seen some that are not, and trust me, I've shot some that are not long threads that just, not a mechanical guy. Like I'm non-engineer type person, but I know things, and that plug goes way up in that breech, screwed in. It's not coming out. So to me, things like that mean a lot.
So the biggest downfall that has kept folks away from hunting and shooting a muzzleloader is number one, in theory, years back they were dirty, nasty, hard to clean. So that kind of deterred people from playing with them. And also, a lot of cases, after a day on the range, that breech plug would get pretty nasty and sometimes stick in the barrel.
Yes.
Technology has touched everything. So we've worked very diligently and hard focused on the breech plug design that we have in our gun today. And in this same breech plug design, we call it the QRBP, and that's Quick Removable Breech Plug. That same breech plug goes across our entire lineup in the break open model. So a Wolf, Optima, and an Acura series all utilize the same breech plug. So they all have the QRBP, and the only tools that it takes to put that breech plug in or take it out is the tools that the man upstairs give you, and that's 2 fingers.
Mm-hmm.
It does not take a wrench to get it out. It does not matter how many times you shoot it. It doesn't matter if you've been on the range all day long and you've shot 50 times, because I've tested it over and over and over again, that you can remove that breech plug with your 2 fingers. And it does have, like you mentioned, full thread. So it takes a full 11 turns to rotate that breech plug out. And people go, oh, it takes longer to get it out because you got to spin it. But yes, it does. You do have to spin it. You do got to rotate 11 times. But at the end of the day, those threads there are there to protect you and make sure that baby stays together. There are other muzzleloader manufacturers out there that make quick removable breech plugs, but the design on those is what they call an interrupted thread system, meaning they cut half the threads off each side of the threaded portion of the breech plug. So it's a half turn. Half turn, the breech plug removes itself. So half turn, half threads is the only thing that's protecting you from that breech plug coming back on you, basically. Our QRBP does have the full rotation of threads to get it all the way back. But again, you can get it out with 2 fingers. So it's super simple. And the greatest thing is it's available in every break open muzzleloader that we make today.
Yep. Well, that's something that I picked up on and I noticed. Another thing that I like is I used to always have trouble. I'd have a ramrod. Okay, I'd have that, but then sometimes I'd have to screw a cleaning jag. I mean, just to see the bullet or whatever. The ramrod, there's a name for it, and you know the name, I'm sure. But the tip of it there fits right. There's a little half moon, if you will, fits right over the muzzle of the rifle. It slides down into that track. Now that's, I mean, why didn't somebody think of that 40 years ago? But that is a big plus to me.
It's ingenious.
Yeah.
So if you've played with muzzleloaders before, when you're trying to load that muzzleloader, especially if you're using a sabot or saboted projectile, and that's a bullet with that little plastic sieve, it takes about 65 pounds of pressure to push that bullet down the barrel. So it's pretty hard to push down, and you got to lay into that ramrod to do that.
Yep.
And if you don't put a glove on top of that sucker or your shirt or something like that, man, you'll leave a big red mark in the palm of your hand trying to push that ramrod down. So basically we went to the drawing board again. When we build these things, we micro it down. We basically go in and dissect each component of our muzzleloaders to figure out a better mousetrap per se. And the ramrod that we have today that you're talking about is called the Palm Saver ramrod. And if you think about it just for a second, or say it very slowly like I do from the South, Palm Saver, it basically saves your palm from having that big red mark in it. That Palm Saver is designed to, like you said, it has a half moon cutout, and that's designed basically to contour around the barrel itself. So when you're hunting with your muzzleloader or on the range, you have the Palm Saver ramrod with you at all times, so it saves your palm. And also, most of the ramrods back in the day have always been a hollow cord piece of aluminum. The Palm Saver ramrod is solid aluminum, so you're not going to bend it, break it, tweak it, warp it, or any nature like that when you're trying to get reloaded in the field. Because I know a lot of times if we have to make a second shot, our nerves are all over the place and anxiety is up. We're fumbling and bumbling trying to get that bullet pushed down the barrel. And I've seen and heard of guys bending and breaking those hollow cord ramrods. So we want to make sure that we went away from that design when we introduced the Palm Saver knob on top of the ramrod. We also updated those ramrods in all of our models to be a solid core, solid piece of aluminum. So you have the strongest and most rigid ramrod that you can have, no matter which model. And again, like we talked about earlier, we didn't cut corners on our Wolves and Optimus to make them less expensive. We just saved a few things like the soft touch and the rubber inlays in the stocks. But the working mechanics of it is fluid across the entire lineup, and that's the barrel, the quick removable breech plug design, and also the Palm Saver ramrod is available in every model also. Yes,
sir. Tony, when I get you down here hunting with me one of these times, I've got a story, and I may relate this story on radio to some of our friends. It's comical that happened back on Trans-Pecos out there, desert mule deer, 35 years ago. It had to do with the ramrod. We don't have time, but you be ready when we get together. I'm going to tell you that story.
I haven't heard your story, but I've heard so many stories over the last 3 decades in the muzzleloading field. And, it may surprise me, but it also may not.
It probably won't. Okay, so let's hook everybody up with CVA. They're widely available everywhere, but the website, that might be a help to go there and look at the different ones, right?
You bet. So outside just the website itself being a location to go figure out the different models and what the specifications are for each model, you can also go there and look at different projectiles that we manufacture under the Pyramyd brand, mainly the ELR series, and you can look into accessories for the muzzleloaders. But you can also, if you're new to the muzzleloading sport or something that you have interest in and you haven't dove into it because of lack of experience or knowledge, you can also go to our website and which will get you to video series that we have filmed in our office there in Lawrenceville, Georgia, and rotate and float on our YouTube channel. So if you're looking for specific models or the finite details of our models or bullets and accessories, you can go to CVA.com, which is our headquarters for everything you need to know about CVA. But also we'll give you links there to go to our YouTube channel to where that you can go through and do a deep dive into muzzleloaders in general. And we just updated all those videos here in the last, 45 days or so, just because there's so much change in the muzzleloading world. There's a lot of old videos out there that doesn't relate to today's product and available accessories that we make and manufacture. So I just went in with our crew in our marketing department there at the CVA headquarters and did a whole new video series on essentials to muzzleloading. So if you're new to the sport and want to get into it, there's a ton of information in there that I would really urge you to go take a look at.
Tony, lots of good information we covered today. Thank you so much for being with us and sharing. This muzzleloaders have been your life for a long time, and
I love them, man, and I want to make sure that everybody out there understands what a good time it is to be in the timber with a muzzleloader. There's a lot of great states across the country that offer muzzleloading seasons, and if you're not taking part in that sport, you're definitely missing out. And I appreciate the opportunity to be on here with you guys today, my man.
Thank you, Tony. Folks, that about wraps our show up for this week. I've enjoyed being with you, and I hope you had a good time, too. This segment was made possible by AGM Global Vision, maker of the Rattler and the Adder, two awesome thermal scopes that I use for all my night hunting. Check out AGM, all the products that they have there online, agmglobalvision.com. And, folks, we're also brought to you by the Choctaw Hunting Lodge up in southeast Oklahoma, located about, 45 minutes west of Hugo, Oklahoma, owned by the Choctaw Nation. It's about 45,000 acres of awesome mountain, country, hills, valleys, loaded with game. Lots of eastern turkey, and they do eastern turkey hunts if you're looking for a spot to hunt turkey in the spring. Also, I want to remind you about the Seneca 50 caliber Dragon Claw that shoots bullets and pellets. And by pellets, I'm talking about 200 and 210 grain lead, chunks of lead. It's a big bore air gun that I use. Check out the Seneca Dragon Claw there at PyramydAir.com.